Hi friend, do you ever feel like standard leadership advice just doesn't work for you? Well, welcome to Leadership from Within. In this podcast, we will discover your unique leadership style. We dive into the world of MBTI and Big Five. We shape leadership strategies that truly fit you. Join us on this journey to find out the one-of-a-kind leader you are. Let's get started. In the opening segment of our interview, we discovered how Greg played a pivotal role in generating the EY partner ecosystem's revenues, boosting them from $1 billion to an impressive $8 billion. As we transition into the second part, our conversation with Greg shifts to his strategic approach to partnerships. He kicks things off by imparting some of the valuable lessons he's gathered throughout this remarkable journey.
Probably the biggest lesson in my career, you really have got to understand and appreciate where the people in the system are coming from. And you really got to practice your empathy and practice putting yourself in the mindset of the critical stakeholders, whether they're customers or your team members or other members of the broader company you're working in, or partners or suppliers, whatever those. At the end of the day, they're still people. And they still wake up every day with problems like we all do, and they have their stresses and their anxieties, and they have their, they also have the things that give them joy and happiness. And to the extent that you can really understand not just the systems, which I'm really naturally able to do those, like the connections between how things work, that's been very natural for me. But the work that I learned over several lessons was you can't ignore the people, and not just people generically, but the specific people. You have to understand where they're coming from, what's important to them, and how to position whatever you're doing in a way that it's not just empirically the right answer, but also it is emotionally the right answer for them. And those often are different things. And that's a really tough thing to learn. Some people are really good at it naturally, but then they don't necessarily have the sort of the more system thinking capabilities. But if you can do both the sort of the people piece as well as sort of the system and the process and the how things work piece, that's when it really all comes together. And if you are not focused and being effective with the people piece, unlikely you'll be successful in whatever you do in life. That has been clear to me for quite some time now.
Moving forward, Greg offered valuable insights for emerging leaders looking to hone their abilities in strategic partnerships.
I think when you're younger, or let's just say earlier in your career, rather than make it age-based, but the more that I have experienced, the more connections I've made about how things are related and how they work. And so some of that you just can't replace with books or, shortcut. There's just a certain amount of time where you've got to go out, you've got to live, you've got to get the scar tissue, you've got to get the experience, you've got to, what do they say, it's 10,000 hours, I think, is the commonly described length of time that it takes to become an expert at something. So I think early in your career, you need to do two things. You need to develop real expertise in something that's concrete, and maybe a couple things that are concrete. And you also need to start to understand how everything's connected. Not just the thing you're an expert in, but then how it connects to all the other elements of a company, and how it operates in the market, and how it creates value, and how it takes care of its stakeholders and those sorts of things. So I do think, notwithstanding that, you've got all these examples of young entrepreneurs that, come up with these great new ideas, and they get funding, and then they're wildly successful. But for the vast majority of us, and I put myself in the vast majority, you kind of gotta go through the learning cycles. You've got to build up the basic expertise platform, and you got to get that context that can only come with over time with seeing how things are connected. Now, some people are faster at seeing those connections than others, so they can advance faster in their career perhaps than others can. But that to me is the general principle of it. Is you got to build that foundation, and then as you get further down in your career journey, and you do have those foundational expertises, and I certainly have mine, and you also have that perspective and have connected a lot of dots and have seen a lot of things. So when you see them again, you immediately see the pattern, and you immediately have a good idea of how to influence the outcome or how to manage the outcome. That's when it becomes easier to do some of the things that are managerial or setting business strategy or building businesses and so forth. And again, that's particularly in the corporate world where you have a lot of stakeholders and you have a lot of other constraints that you have to manage through in order to do it well.
To wrap things up, he generously laid out his comprehensive principles for successful strategic partnerships, providing a holistic view on the matter.
There's a relationship component to this, as well as a strategy component, as well as a structural component. So I'll start with the strategy. The strategy has always been to elevate partnering from what it has traditionally been in our industry, which is you sell my stuff and I'll sell your stuff and we'll sell it together, and selling our stuff together we'll win more. That was probably a good model 40 years ago, 30 years ago, but today clients need more than that, and it's not very valuable just to co-sell without also putting something underneath that co-sell value proposition that is of distinct value to the client. So there has to be co-investment, there has to be net new value creation. So part of the strategy has been to really focus on the smallest set of partners with whom we can co-invest, create the greatest value for our joint customers. Starts with, what are the major issues that our clients are facing industry by industry? Which partners are willing to lean with us in which industries with which issues? And when I say lean in, I mean co-invest and co-market, and then get after it in the market, selling it, and then delivering it. So the strategy has always been less is more, but the partners you have should be strategic and you need to create net new value. Another part of the model is execution and infrastructures. You need to find for the organization that you're in that it is a corporate function, similar to finance, tax, IT, talent, etc., and that corporate function has a set of business processes that it is responsible for. Those business processes touch other parts of the organization, as well as, in the case of partnering, they also cover other companies, because we have intercompany processes that we operate as well as intra-company processes we operate. So you need to realize you're building a function, you're building business processes, you're automating and digitizing them, you're moving middle and back office offshore, just like you do in any other business function. And if all you do is get after it in the market, you're not going to do that part, and ultimately you're going to run out of oxygen because your cost basis will be too high and you will not create enough value and you will not be able to scale. So that's another big element. And then if there is the relationship in totality with the partners. And so that starts with trust. It starts with a joint purpose thesis that we consistently operate against. It starts with a co-branding value proposition that we agree to that's aligned to the purpose, then goes down to an investment thesis. Where are we going to co-invest? Which industries? Which types of themes and issues within those industries? Then it goes down into a joint team structure. What is the operating model? What's the governance? What's the financing mechanism? How do we report? How do we ensure that we are accurately representing the business performance to both sides, as well as doing the things that we've committed to each other that we're going to do? There's a lot of work that goes into trust, and that's just at the center. And then that all then has to get out into the field, right? Because these organizations are very big, and so is our organization. We operate in multiple countries, in multiple industries. We have to have mechanisms to extend that trust from the center of the relationship out into the edge of the market, and also get that trust at the account level and at the solution selling level. And so mechanisms for doing that are very important as well.
Thanks for being with us today on Leadership from Within. We hope you found inspiration and valuable insights to empower your leadership journey. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to subscribe and share it with others. And remember, if you have any specific questions about leadership, we're just an email away. See you in the next one.